begun. The Clone Wars have... Attention, Star Wars Battlefront has dropped. It's time to take a step back and examine the origins of one of the most iconic titles in the Star Wars gaming universe. Remember. But how did Star Wars Battlefront come about? Jim Ward became the new LucasArts president in 2004, and throughout his internal review, he realised that the organisation had to be restructured to position itself to accommodate the future of the gaming industry. The price of this restructuring was high. 200 LucasArts employees were laid off as the company became a publisher first, focusing on quality games rather than quantity. Throughout this turbulent time, Battlefront 2004 was able to survive due to LucasArts seeing the potential. War games like Battlefield, Medal of Honor, and Call of Duty showed how war games are a means to print money. The sandbox nature of these games lead to high skill ceilings with low barriers to entry, combined with high player retention due to so many variables within each experience. Pandemic, the developer of Battlefront, understood that war games combined with the Star Wars setting would be a match made in heaven. Whilst players would have experienced these battles in other games like Rogue Squadron, featuring specialised experiences, never would have a game focused with war and sandbox at the forefront, providing players with a fresh perspective to view these battles. A PlayStation 2 and Xbox demo, strangely enough, was players' first interaction with Battlefront. The strategy paid off, and the game sold over 4 million copies, with an 80% score on Metacritic. But why was it so successful? Star Wars Battlefront at its core is a very simple shooter. You fight across large maps in each of the two eras, the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War, as a Republic, Confederacy of Independent Systems, Rebel Alliance, and the Galactic Empire. Each of these factions had 5 classes in total: a standard infantry, a heavy class with a rocket launcher, a pilot class to repair vehicles, and a marksman to snipe people from afar. They are all pretty standard across the factions, with some slight variations. The super battle droids, for example, had wrist rockets instead of grenades. The Separatist pilot had a grenade launcher, whereas the Rebel pilot had a shotgun. There was also one unique class specific to each faction: a jet trooper for the Republic, a droidicar for the Separatists, the Rebels had a Wookiee warrior, and the Empire had a useless Dark Trooper. This mode itself was simple in its design, emulating the successful Conquest mode of Battlefield. Depending on the size of the map and the layout, the number of command posts representing spawnable locations would vary. The end goal would be to reduce the other faction's tickets to 0, or capture all of the aforementioned command posts, giving options to the player in the Star Wars playground, which itself is captured beautifully by a very early 2000s art style, which whilst graphically is subpar compared to the more modern Battlefront titles, it has its own charm looking back at it, and I believe it'll have more of a lasting impact than those newer games. All that aside, the game very much feels like Star Wars. The AT-ATs look like AT-ATs, and the X-Wings look and sound like X-Wings. The AI, on the other hand, have aged a lot poorer than I remembered, both in this game and its sequel. The AI looks like it was built by some intern on minimum wage in one afternoon. It's pretty janky, to be honest. Most of the time your teammates are found in a corner, and forget trying to be a side pilot in a Republic gunship. Your pilot might suffer from a spastic attack, but they are an absolute demon when it comes to being in turrets. This can be seen most evidently on Endor, where if you want to destroy the shield bunker, you have to run the gauntlet. Pretty bizarre, all things considering. While the ability to play as a special hero like Darth Vader or Samuel L. Jackson was not yet available, they were present throughout some maps and were indestructible tanks. More importantly, these heroes highlight how you are just one soldier on a wide battlefront. You are nothing in comparison to these walking forces of nature. The maps themselves are highly diverse and are a real treat looking back. I'd like to go through some of the maps that capture the soul of Star Wars in its entirety. Geonosis for me is a highlight of this game and represents what this franchise is capable of. The Republic and the CIS are faced head to head on the plains of Geonosis. Reinforced with 2 AT-ATs and 2 gunships, the Republic has a necessary force to be able to break through the outer defences of the Spire, leading to a final push to the Techno-Union ships, announcing victory over the droid army. Whilst Geonosis was the start of the Clone Wars, Naboo was the first battle.
After all, the war started here years ago.
It's a really special map, especially in a historical campaign, because B1 battle droids are present. Nonetheless, its rolling hills provide some engaging sightlines and opportunities for evasive vehicle play, especially for the Rebellion speeder. Hoth is one of the Star Wars planets that appear in multiple video games. However, its depiction in this game is one of its most popular. The Rebels take defensive positions at 4 command posts, preparing for an assault by the Empire's 2 AT-ATs and 2 AT-STs. The Rebels' defensive positions and turrets combined with the snow speeders actually make it quite simple for the Rebels to defeat the Empire. This map is an example of one of the core highlights of the more sandbox nature and freedom Conquest mode provides. Using a snowspeeder, the Rebels can quickly backcap the Empire's spawn point, forcing all snowtroopers to spawn around the AT-ATs. The Empire can reverse the situation by capturing Echo Base, halting all future snowspeeder spawns. Taking out the shield generator, a nice Easter egg to the movies, and an acting spawn point, reduces the Rebellion's spawn point opportunities. Bespin is one of the more understated planets in the Star Wars universe, but Battlefront plays host to 2 maps within this planet, with the more well-known one being Bespin platforms. Close quarters infantry combat combined with air combat playing host to 5 ships per side ensure this map is chaotic fun. The vehicle gameplay of this game is interesting, with no space battles being present in the game, were incorporated into ground battles. As a result, these fighters use explosive blasters, which are devastating to ground troops. On the other hand, Kashyyyk Docks is a very defensive-orientated map. The Republic and Wookiee forces take a defensive position on the beach and overlooking platforms, whilst the droid army invades from the opposing island. The aesthetic is quite nice to look at, and is complemented well by the game's art style. Considering when this game was released pre-Revenge of the Sith, this was people's first reaction to what Kashyyyk would look like, and it is quite different from how it would end up looking in the movie, with its more overcast look and more wooden structures, showing how concept art and final look can differ drastically. Nonetheless, the unique beachland assault helps to differ the map from the game pool and provide players with an intriguing first-hand look into Kashyyyk. Similarly, Renfur Harbour takes a place as the other sort of defensive style map, with the droids and rebels holding out in an ice fortress against an assault of an AT-AT or AT-TE. There are 2 varying styles of play in this map. You can go the ice caves if you want close quarter combat, filled with a multitude of grenades. Or you can man the AT-TE or AT-AT and make the head-on assault. Both styles are engaging and complement each other, as a breach through the caves will contribute to an overrunning of the fortress, and if the AT-AT is able to break through, the Empire can get an easy spawn point inside the compound, resulting in an easy defeat for the Rebels or CIS. Tatooine Dune Sea is the final S-tier map in this game. The Empire or Rebels, assisted with AT-STs, combat speeders, TIE fighters, and X-Wings, clash on the deserts of Tatooine, and the wide expanse next to the moisture farm ensures the AT-ATs can get some devastating kills. Meanwhile, there's another whole separate battle between the Empire, Rebels, and the Tusken Raiders, one of the native species with their own separate command point near the Sarlacc pit. With a cool skiff speeder inspired by something out of Jabba's palace, you can truly come immersed in this battleground. The developers clearly love the franchise, and this can be seen in the various Easter eggs throughout the map. Bespin Cloud City has a frozen Han Solo in carbonite, which can also be seen on Jabba's palace, where Jabba himself lays there having a feed with his Rancor, which can eat you, whilst Jabba's minions wander the halls murdering anyone unfortunate enough to get caught up in their acts. On Kashyyyk there's the Afro-mentored Wookiees. On Tatooine there are the Tuskens and Sarlacc pits, which can actually eat people if you get too close. The core of the matter is that it spices up these maps, makes them even more unique to each other, something the reboots sorely lack. Everything's either canonized or outside the playable area. In the reboot, something I've always found sad was whilst the DICE developers obviously loved the franchise, they didn't have the same knack for interactable Easter eggs. In one of the Tatooine maps in the 2015 game, the Tusken Raiders were just 2D sprites. They didn't interact with the player at all. The Sarlacc was close to the edge of the map and you had to actively interact with it. Jabba's palace is the worst offender. No Jabba, the Rancor's dead, no Han Solo, and the Gamorreans are just in cells. Where's the variety? The only AI in these games are just civilians or natives that run away if you dare interact with them. Such a shame. Ultimately, this game started the franchise, and one that has had a turbulent history, that does not take away from the success of this game and its contribution and celebration of Star Wars. If you enjoyed the video, chuck a like on it, and have a good rest of your day.